All right, so it's time for the December book haul. One thing I wanted to mention first, I've got a couple shelves here I've dedicated for a couple different things. One is my TBR, give you kind of a glimpse of what I might be reading coming up. And then the other shelf is recent books that I've been accumulating kind of in between these book hauls. So it'll give you kind of a sneak peek of what's to come. So I've cleared out this whole shelf now to unhaul all those books. And I've got some others as well. And then going forward, I'll just keep kind of loading that shelf up until I do another book haul. So the first little batch I want to unhaul here came from my wife. She went to Denver on a fun little weekend outing with some of her friends. And she managed to go to a couple bookstores, and she's getting really good at finding books on her own, and she knows what I'm kind of looking for. Sometimes she'll send me a picture and ask if I already have it or if I'm interested. But she found some really good ones. She got The Dimension of Miracles by Robert Sheckley. And this is one that Jake over at Pulp Mortem has talked about recently. Very kind of humorous book, and that sounds real interesting. Glad I got that. And then Men Against the Stars. This is a anthology edited by Martin Greenberg. And I had a copy of this one come in a big lot from eBay, but it was just torn up. It was so in such bad shape I didn't want to keep it. But it had some really good authors. I was kind of curious about this collection. I was going to maybe keep it as a reading copy, but she found this just excellent edition from Pyramid Books, issued at 35 cents. So really glad I found that, or she found that. And then Keith Laumer, Envy to New Worlds. This is in the Retief universe, or whatever you want to call that. She loves these Laumer covers. I love them too. And that's a pretty great one. This is an Ace science fiction edition here. And then this one, I'd never seen this before. This is a kind of a double from Belmont, and it's got Giants in the Earth by James Blish and We, the Marauders by Robert Silverberg. And so I'd never seen one of these Belmont kind of doubles before. And it's, basically a couple novellas, because the whole thing is like 160 pages, and it's got 2 stories in there. So some good short stories there. And then Cynthia Felice, Eclipses. And this is one of those timescapes. These are really cool. This one isn't in the best shape, but it was fairly cheap. It's got a sticker that I'm waiting to get one of those sticker removal tools before I try to do anything with that one. But one cool thing was this one was actually signed, so that's kind of cool. And then she knows I'm been collecting a lot of Frederik Pohl, so she got me The Abominable Earthman. This is a Ballantine edition. It's not in the, it looks pretty good, but it's not crisp. It's a little wavy, but it's actually in pretty good shape. And this is a collection of short stories, I believe. Yeah. So there's the stories that are in that one. And then the last one she got me was a hardback. I don't collect many hardbacks, but this is Clifford D. Simek, Over the River and Through the Woods. And this is from Tachyon Publications out of San Francisco, California. And she got this, I think, for $7 at a really interesting bookstore. And it's got a great collection of short stories. I was talking to Sean D. Standfast about this, and apparently these weren't constructed in the most premium way, but it's still a pretty cool collection. I'm glad to have that. And then, so Richard Rempel was in town. He's the mastermind over at Vintage SF. And we got to do a video together, and he brought a bunch of books, and then we kind of did a book trade in person. I was hoping to have enough time to kind of film a video on that, but we ended up not having enough time to do that. But these are the books I got from him. Christopher Priest, The Prestige, This is a book he raved about, and I have only read one book from Christopher Priest, The Inverted World. This is the SF Masterworks edition from Gollancz. So he had a spare copy of that, so I got that. And then a couple here from Walter M. Miller Jr. These are short story collections. We got The View from the Stars from Ballantine. You know, he's most notable for Canticle for Leibowitz, and not many other well-renowned or critically acclaimed novels, but he did write a bunch of short stories that I'm interested in reading. And this is 3 novellas called Conditionally Human. So this is another one from Ballantine. And then Avram Davidson, What Strange Stars and Skies. This is one of those smaller format Ace books in really good shape. This is a collection of short stories from Avram Davidson. And then really excited about this one, The Universe Against Her by James H. Schmidt. This is another one of those smaller Ace books. So it was great to meet Richard, do the trade in person. While he was here, we went over to my local bookstore, which I've raved about many times. Richard got to experience it. They were having this half off sale, so all the books we got were basically $1. And I'd mentioned someone had just come in earlier that day. Apparently, the person working there told us this, and they dropped off 2 big bags of just pristine science fiction books. And I noticed right away. I was noticing there was some books I hadn't seen before, so I snagged a couple of these. These were all $1. I got Harlan Ellison 3, Memos from Purgatory, and you'll see these pyramid books. I think they're all nonfiction. I could be wrong, or essays or things like that. I haven't seen many of these out in the wild, and this one was in perfect condition, and it was only $1. And then Terry Carr has edited a series, The Best Science Fiction of the Year. This is number 13. And I think I'm only missing 2 or 3. I think it went up to number 16. And I've almost got all of those now. And then I got a couple from Bradbury, The Machineries of Joy. And this is from Bantam Books. And this one was just in really good shape. This is a collection of short stories. And then Long After Midnight, another collection of short stories. I mean, Bradbury mostly wrote short stories. Even some of his novels are actually like fix-ups from various short stories. So now let's get on to the rest of the books here. So, and we're going to go into ascending order like I usually do. Kind of build up to some really great books at the end. So The Flight of the Horse by Larry Niven. I had a different version of this one. This is I believe this is the original Ballantine edition of this one. 3rd printing, so pretty early on. The Eskimo Invasion by Hayden Howard. This has got a fantastic, interesting cover. I looked up the reviews. I mean, you can't really trust the reviews all the time on vintage science fiction. But I am intrigued by this. I've never really heard of Hayden Howard. That could be a good one. You never know. And then James E. Gunn, The Witching Hour. This one here is from Dell. It's got some pretty cool artwork there on the cover. Alan E. Norse, Tiger by the Tail and Other Science Fiction Stories. So this is a collection of short science fiction from McFadden Books. And Alan E. Norse, you'll see I've got The Blade Runner up here. I'm going to be reading that soon. Never read anything by him yet. And then Kate Wilhelm, The Clewiston Test. This is a timescape. I just love these timescapes. Picked that one up locally. And then this one is just from Sarban, The Sound of His Horn. I forget, when I got this, I looked this up. I forget what the deal is with this author, but it sounds interesting. This is a really old Ballantine that was in really clean, crisp condition for 35 cents That's what it was issued for. So couldn't refuse that. This one I don't know much about at all. The Mind Traders by J. Hunter Hawley. And this is a Manor Books. Not my favorite vintage publisher. But I think when I looked that one up, it sounded pretty intriguing. The Simultaneous Man by Ralph Blum, or Bloom, probably Blum. This is from Bantam. Another really clean copy. Know nothing about this one. A.E. Van Vogt, Masters of Time. This is another one from McFadden. I have not read this. I've read about 4 or 5 books from Van Vogt. They're all really short. This one is only 128 pages. Now this one, I found this for $5. The Final Blackout by L. Ron Hubbard. I read this. I wasn't the biggest fan. This is some real pulpy work from L. Ron Hubbard before he really invented Scientology and all that. I had this really big hardback of this one that was published by the Church of Scientology. So now I'm going to get rid of that one and just keep this, because even though I didn't like it so much, I want to keep it in my collection as, you know, it's almost like a talking point, because a lot of people just know L. Ron Hubbard from those Battlefield Earth, those giant tomes, and Scientology, but he was a pulp writer writing all kinds of different genres back in the day. Maybe not the best pulp writer, but he's still notable, I guess. And then Beyond Infinity by Robert Spencer Carr. This is from Dell, one of these smaller mass markets. Don't know much about that one. We got 3 here from Daw. We got A. Bertram Chandler, The Broken Cycle, a John Grimes adventure. Guy Snyder, Testament 21, or XXI. I assume that's 21. The Probability Man by Brian N. Ball. Now this is kind of interesting. It's a DAW number 3, as you can see there. So very, very early DAW that came out. And I think Brian Ball did a lot in the DAW line, the Yellow Spines. And then this one here is from Pocket Books. This is the Demu Trilogy by F.M. Busby. So it's kind of an omnibus of this trilogy he wrote. I still have yet to read anything from Busby, but this one was in great shape. Pick that up. Okay. Now, almost every book haul will have a spin rad usually. I've almost got all of them now. This is Russian Spring from Bantam. This is a really big, thick book for Spinrad. A lot of his, earlier works were really short. This one's over 600 pages, but I found that locally pretty cheap. And then this one I found online. This is the, C.S. Lewis, his trilogy. Let's just do one at a time. Out of the Silent Planet. I believe this is book 1. This is on the list of the masterpieces of science fiction that I'm going to be reading through. At least this first book is. And this is these are all from Collier Books. And if I like it enough, I want to read the trilogy, because then you have Paralandra. Really great cover art. And this was like a really clean matching set that I found for a good deal. I've been watching these. And then the conclusion of this trilogy was That Hideous Strength. Once again, some really cool artwork. This one's quite a bit longer than the first 2. It's like almost 400 pages. And then we got Gladiator at Law. This is by Pohl and Kornbluth. This is from Ballantine Books. I really eventually want to read everything from Pohl, and even from the team of Pohl and Kornbluth. They wrote a lot together before Kornbluth passed away at an early age. And then The Mind Partners and Other Novelettes from Galaxy, edited by H.G. Gold. I found these a while ago. These are either pocketbooks or sometimes I think they were under the Perma Books line, and I forget how many of them there are. These are a smaller format, mass market paperback. I think they're all edited by H.G. Gold. He was a very well-known editor, I think for Galaxy, like it states here. Great lists of authors in there. And so whenever I find these little pocketbooks series, I'm trying to pick those up. Then I found, I'd been looking for this for a long time. I remember reading the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, Volume 1, a long time ago. And I saw a while ago that these came as a box set. And a lot of times they're in just really bad condition. I mean, I understand. People read these, so they broke the spines. But I found someone selling these online for a really good price. Here's Volume 2A. And they were just in really good condition. And then Volume 2B, which has E for Effort by T.L. Sherrod, one of my favorite short stories I've ever read recently. And then the box itself was in really good shape. And I have a few of these boxes now. They're almost a little collectible thing on their own. So I was glad to finally find this set in good condition for a really good price on eBay. I forget exactly what I paid, but I've been watching those for a long time. Okay, final two stacks. We're getting into some really good ones here. Alpha 5, edited by Robert Silverberg from Ballantine Books. I think there was 9 Alpha anthologies released. I have 3 or 4 of them now. And Robert Silverberg was editing these kind of during the new wave. And there is just some great authors and stories in these. So if you ever see these Alpha anthologies by Silverberg, I recommend picking those up. Then I got Epoch, which is another anthology edited by Roger Elwood and Robert Silverberg. This one is from Berkeley Books, and it's in really good condition. It's obviously never been read, and once again, these they have just a really good lineup of authors and stories. This is a big one, so there's 2 pages. We even have Blooded on Arachne by Michael Bishop in this one, which is a great kind of stylistic short story. And then I did find a copy of The Way the Future Was, a memoir by Frederick Pohl. I'm on a Pohl kick. Like I said, I want to read everything by him. I'm fascinated by not only his writing, but him as a person. Just so influential, but kind of, I guess not outspoken. Just I'm just fascinated by him, and this is like his memoir, so I'm really excited to read that. And then I got Anthony Burgess, A Clockwork Orange from Ballantine. I was kind of hoping to find the original printing of this one, but it goes for quite a bit. I had like a trade paperback of this, and this is on the list of the masterpieces of science fiction. But I got this later print. It's going to replace my trade paperback. And then Stanislav Lem, Tales of Pricks the Pilot. There's this livery from Avon or Bard, where a lot of these Stanislav Lem books look like this, with this style and formatting and everything. And so I think I'm only missing 1 or 2 now to have all of that livery. And then I don't usually collect Ace doubles, but my local bookstore had this for $1. And the reason there's certain circumstances where I will probably find these, because Barrington J. Bailey wrote a novel called The Star Virus, and as far as I can tell, this is the only way to get it in this Ace double. And on the other side is The Mask of Chaos by John Jakes. I don't know much about that one, but I am really intrigued by Barrington J. Bailey. I only read one of his stories so far, and it maybe wasn't my favorite, but I do want to read more from him in the future. And then I got Poul Anderson Brainwave. I have a different edition of this. This is the first U.S. paperback from Ballantine. of this one. This is going to be my next Poul Anderson read, probably in January. I'm going to slip this in. I was debating between this and The Broken Sword, which is a fantasy by Poul Anderson. I've loved everything I've read from him, but that will be the next one, probably in January. And then I got Theodore Sturgeon, The Stars Are the Sticks. This is a collection of short stories. I need to get back into Sturgeon. He was one of my original favorite science fiction authors. I've read quite a few of his novels and a bunch of his short stories, but it's kind of been a while at this point. And then ever since I read The Paradox Men by Charles L. Harness, I was blown away. This was kind of a hidden gem. No one was really talking about him. This is such a good book. This edition had maybe some editing and issues with some just bad editing or whatever. There is a Crown SF Classics edition, which is supposedly the definitive edition, but I don't know how different it is. Richard Rempel kind of compared them and didn't see much difference. But I'd been on the lookout for more books from Harness, and I found this lot on eBay for next to nothing for all 4 of these books. And so I've got this New English Library copy of this book, which I've read, and I loved it. It also came with Red World, and this is from Daw, but not one of the yellow spines, one of the later edition Daws. And then these 2 I'm really excited for. The Rose. When I raved about The Paradox Men, I got a lot of comments in there to try reading this next. So this will be the next book I actually read from Charles L. Harness, and it's just got beautiful colors and artwork on that one. And then the last one that came in that lot was The Ring of Ritternell. And this one is from Berkeley. And Harness, I mean, he was a great author, but he's not talked about too much. Now we got 5 from Silverberg. We got The Time of the Great Freeze. This is from Dell. The Masks of Time. This is the original first printing from Ballantine in a paperback. I believe. I looked these up, but I can only hold so much in my head. Then Thorns. I'm pretty sure this is the first Ballantine paperback in the US that came out of this one. And I'm trying to collect everything from a certain era of Silverberg. And then The Best of Robert Silverberg. I had a different cover, but I managed to find this one for a really good price, and it was just in really, really good shape. And has some interesting artwork there. And then A Time of Changes. This is probably the next Silverberg I'm going to be reading because it's on the list of the masterpieces of science fiction that I'm reading through. I think I have 3 copies of this now, all kind of from different publishers. This one's from Warner Books. So when I read that one, I'll probably show you all the different colors. Okay, now we got 3 or 4 from Clifford Simak, or Simak. The Goblin Reservation. This is one I was missing. This is from Berkeley. It's got kind of a creased and leaning spine, but this is the first US edition that came out. It has some really cool artwork. Why Call Them Back from Heaven. And this one is from Avon. I have read this one quite a while ago. It's really good. Strangers in the Universe. This is from Berkeley. This is a collection of short stories. This is the second printing of this one, so I'm still trying to find the first printing, which has a slightly different cover. Yep, this is second printing, 1957. And then Destiny Doll. This is from Berkeley. This is the first US printing of this one. This is going to be the next one we read for Sean D. Standfast's series, where once a month we're reading a different book from Clifford. And I had a different edition of this one, but I'm just really intrigued by that artwork, so I'm really excited to read this and see what that's all about. Okay, and then we got The Genocides by Thomas M. Dish. This is from Berkeley. This is the first US printing of this one. I've only read one novel from Dish. It probably wasn't the best place to start. It was, I forget the title, but this is the next book I'm going to read by him, The Genocides. I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of booktubers about that one. The Best of John D. Sladek. I kind of teased this when I read Mechasm by Sladek. I wasn't blown away by Mechasm. I really think it would have done better as a short story. So this is a collection of short stories. And this is probably where I'm going to dip my toes back into Sladek's writing again. Okay, now this one, I was really excited. Ever since I read The Best of John W. Campbell, I was a little underwhelmed by the collection, but his story Who Goes There is so good. And I was wanting to maybe find this someday. This is a Dell smaller format book where he published this and a couple other short stories. This can go for a lot of money, but I was browsing on eBay one day and I saw someone had a lot of like 20 books, and this was kind of slipped in there. It was kind of in the background. I could see from the pictures that it was in pretty good shape. And I got the whole lot of books for like $20. And if you look this one up online, it can go for upwards to $100 sometimes. So I was really glad to snag that. And then I got two from Philip K. Dick here. We got The Maze of Death. This is from Daw. Amazing cover art on this one. Some of these can be a little expensive and hard to find. And then Clans of the Alphane Moon. This is one of the Ace smaller mass markets. Really good shape on this one. And then the last book I got, I've been trying to collect the best of this that Pocket Books put out, and some of them have been very hard to find. I found someone on some random website selling this for $20, The Best of John Collier, and it has just got some amazing cover art on there. From what I can tell, John Collier was writing this blend of horror, science fiction, and fantasy. This is a collection of short stories. I'm really excited to read this and check it out. If you try to find this book, either people don't know what it is and you might be able to get a good deal on it, but otherwise people will charge upwards to $50 to $100 depending on the condition. So if you ever see this one out, it can be kind of hard to find, and I'm really glad I found this copy of it. So that's it for this book haul. Just keep watching throughout the month. You'll see my shelf load up with some future finds that I'm going to get, and then we'll just keep doing that unloaded each month. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.